on the News Channel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Open Line. I'm Carrie Sharp, and I'm so glad you're joining us tonight. As you've been watching right here on News Channel 5 Plus, the State of the State address by Governor Bill Lee, and that is our topic for tonight. We would love to hear your thoughts on it, good, bad, or indifferent. Let us know. The number's at the bottom of the screen, 615-737-PLUS. And in all of our political matters, we have our political analyst here, Pat Nolan, with us.
Hi, Carrie.
Hello. Thank you for coming in, as always.
Sure,
you can talk us through this. We watched it the last hour. We weren't quite sure it was going to wrap up in time, but he did.
He did. Well, one of the reasons you have a problem with speeches like that is that you never quite know. You hope there's a lot of applause in it.
Sure.
You don't know how many standing ovations you're going to get and how much time that's going to get in. The governor did a little ad-libbing, but really
he stuck to it.
Very, very much to the speech. So
Any big surprises?
No, usually we have governors at this time announcing what they're going to do in terms of education, particularly in terms of teacher pay. And in this case, while he's talking about $600 million being the largest investment in a single year in education going forward, with a 4% pay raise for teachers and making the lowest paid teacher within 2 years from $36,000 a year to $40,000 a year.
As a base minimum across the state.
That's sort of the thing you sort of expect. You to know what the numbers are going to be. That probably, the speech tonight was about 15 pages long.
He really
probably half of it was about
education.
I thought he really spent quite a bit on that.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well. I mean, not that it's not needed, but surprised.
He did talk about the voucher program. He indicated he wants to continue to see it going forward, saying that change is hard. He didn't actually say it was going to start a year early, which is sort of the plan at this point. I don't know if that means anything or not, but there was nothing in there specifically that said that. A very strong defense and words in favor of the heartbeat bill, the abortion comprehensive omnibus bill that's being drafted right now to put the legislature. If you look at what the governor's office put out today, it's the #1 thing on his legislative agenda. So he's got Republicans at this point united behind that. That also helps, since there's a few things they're not completely united about in terms of refugees.
Which was not mentioned.
Not mentioned, and some of the other things that have been issues didn't come up tonight. One of the things that didn't come up was the TANF money and the daycare money, which the federal monies that Tennessee's received has built up to being close to $750 million. And there's been questions about what that needs to be spent on, and both the legislature and the governor's office have been working on a plan. He didn't mention that at all tonight. That's kind of interesting. I'm sure the Democrats, when they have their response, will talk about the fact that they said it would take $1.6 billion to fully fund schools in the state, and the governor's offering $600 million. And I'm sure we'll fight about those two numbers. The nice thing about the budget in Tennessee is the economy is doing well. We're not having to cut over what we're going to fight.
Right. In fact, he's talked about a large investment again in the rainy day fund.
He also talked about cutting a tax. He talked about cutting the privilege tax by 50%, and he says that's a very bad tax. That sounded like a down payment on cutting it out completely, but this year he's going to take it with a 50% cut, and that would put back about $40 million.
And that's great news for small business owners.
I think they'll be very much happy about that. I suspect there's going to be strong support for that in the legislature. Another thing he mentioned, although it wasn't directly said in the speech, he ad-libbed the fact that local governments are worried about having to raise taxes. And of course, raising taxes on the local level generally means a property tax increase.
Right.
He's coming up with $100 million that will be given to both counties and cities to do for one-time projects, whether it's a road project or IT work or something like that. That was interesting. Of course, there's a bill in the legislature that's being talked about that would limit all property tax increases to no more than 5% a year, which at least the big city mayors are very unhappy with. Don't know how that'll go in the legislature, and he didn't endorse anything like that, but that $100 million will certainly be a way to say, well, you can do this and stay away from having to raise taxes.
It's almost crazy to say this, but I think it needs to be said. He said, $100 million to counties, we're going to divide that up between all the counties and municipalities. When you start dividing, that doesn't make for a lot of money to spread around.
There's 95 counties alone, and then you take all the cities, and that's the big cities and the small cities. So when you divide it up, it's not as big a number as it sounds like. And I'm sure, no matter what the formula is, there'll be people who are not going to be happy about what the formula is. And that's part of the fighting we have going on with education, the BEP. It used to be, people used to say it was really bad favoring rural counties over urban counties. There's still a problem about that. It's been in the courts again. May stay in the courts for a while too.
What did you hear that you knew we would hear a lot of besides education? Anything you said, yep, Right on par
Well,
with what
I
I was
thought it
thinking.
almost got the biggest round of applause of the whole night. It was when he announced that he was putting in money in the budget, several $1 million more, to fund 80 new positions for the
Driver Services Center.
Driver Services Center, because obviously he and state lawmakers have heard that people go to get their real ID and they
wait
either
hours.
The computers are down or something else is going on and they can't get that done. And so I think he's trying to make sure that, as he said, we need to serve our customers better about that. So I'm sure the legislature will probably approve those funds. I mean, this will take a while, but the legislature will probably be wrapping up by around Easter. So for the rest of the winter, we'll continue to see them come up once a week and argue about new things and bring up new things and argue about old things.
And explain for folks who maybe don't know, because even the governor mentioned that people's contacts with government is probably limited to those driver services centers. So, with that amount of knowledge, explain what happens over the next few months to go from here's my proposal as governor of what to do with our money to it's done.
Well, they'll be putting all this, particularly the budget, and it's now $40 billion a record that'll be put before the legislature. It'll go through the committee process there, and ultimately, usually towards the very last days of the legislature, because if they pass the budget and then stay, usually that's when they get into mischief that probably they shouldn't be getting into. But they'll probably pass both those bills right towards the end of it, and it'll probably be about that size. It might actually grow, because usually there's some supplemental appropriations that come through, things that the governor's people have discovered. Hey, we needed to put this in back in January, and we've got the funds to do it. There may be some things that lawmakers want to do to add in some projects as well, and then they'll approve that before they go home. The one thing the legislature has to do every year, whether they do anything else, is pass a balanced state budget. It has to be. You have to spend less money than what you have on hand, and they do that every year. That's one of the reasons the governor was able to brag again tonight that we have that AAA bond rating. And this particular budget, even though it's now $40 billion plus, adds no new debt for the state. And there are not too many states that can say that.
One of the things I was surprised at that he did not spend a lot of time on, considering the situation that the state is in when it comes to health care. He mentioned a few things, mentioned the block grant request.
He did.
And then kind of just, for the most part, left it.
Well, he continued to say that he thinks, he didn't say for sure whether, he's certainly hopeful that the Trump administration will approve this, although what happened last week was the Trump administration put out their ideas about changing Medicare into a block grant that were a little bit, Medicaid I should say, were a little bit different than what the states proposed. The states proposed a much broader plan than what Tennessee's doing. It's not clear, even though Tennessee's first in line, since they've got a proposal up there, whether they'll be the first approved or whether that will slow that process down. He did make one statement tonight that I think he said before, but reiterated again, that if this is approved, any money that's saved will be put back into the program, and nobody will be worse off in their health care than they are right now. Of course, what bothers the Democrats and others is they want that program to be much larger. We have ignored hundreds of billions of dollars at the state, or at least tens of billions of dollars that could have been brought down here under the Affordable Care Act.
I know Democrats were stirring in their seats at some of his comments that, we're one of so many states, just a few number of states who have not spent the money available to us. And Democrats said, we've been asking, begging you, we wish you would.
The problem is the Democrats, if the Republicans are in a super majority, the Democrats are unfortunately in it for them and in a super minority. So what they do, about all they have done, and in a few places this has been the case, there has been legislation passed because the Democrats supported something that the Republicans were split about. In this particular legislature, if this legislature decides, all the Republicans decide they want something,
it's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
Yeah.
They can have the sun come up tomorrow in the West, which is not going to happen, but they have that kind of political power.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break. We would love to hear from you. We are talking about the state of the state address. I was watching your comments on our feed on our Facebook page, and I know a lot of you all have thoughts on it. So go ahead and give us a call. 615-737+ is the number to call. Stay with us.
What were they talking about?
A lot of people want to talk about